Hello and welcome to the 25th episode of the Unnamed Political Podcast. I'm your host, Clark Walber.
And I'm Jack Orvath.
Today we're going to be discussing our final picks for the caucuses for both Republicans and Democrats, and then we'll be devoting the last 5 minutes to a unnamed, unscripted podcast, as you've seen 2 times before.
Rarely is the question asked, how is our children learning?
My fellow Americans.
Corporations are people, my friend.
Our country is in serious trouble.
I did not send classified material, and I did not receive any material that was marked or designated classified.
But man is not free unless government is limited.
Bringing you opinions on historic, current, and international politics. Welcome to the Unnamed Political Podcast.
Let's jump right into it today. We're going to be talking about the Iowa caucuses, who we think is going to win. It's getting very close as of the day we're filming it today. There's probably around 2 to 3 weeks before the caucuses season really starts for the Republicans and the Democrats.
Yes, and the race, particularly in the Democrats, has been closer than ever before. Yeah. Hillary Clinton has slowly started, particularly in Iowa and New Hampshire, to slowly lose her lead to Bernie Sanders as he's been making a massive surge forward. But do you think it's enough for him to seize the nomination?
At this point, the polls are in contention. I think he has a decent chance of winning the states, of course, but not like the entire nomination. He's going to win New Hampshire. That's pretty much confirmed.
I think it's fairly certain.
Iowa will be fairly tough. All the polls that have come out are pretty much in the margin.
Iowa's been balanced. I've seen quite a few polls that are within the margin of error.
Exactly. So it's really up to anyone.
But I think it's absolutely safe to assume that Hillary Clinton is hands down going to be the Democratic nominee this year.
In terms of the Republican side, it seems like Trump's pretty much creaming in both, important states, Iowa and New Hampshire, by a decent margin. Although Ted Cruz has surged a tiny bit in second place.
Ted Cruz has surged, and we're also seeing surges. It hasn't really been as significant, but it has been getting a lot of media attention. John Kasich actually has finally been starting to get a little bit more press, which is rather exciting to see, as he's kind of been a candidate who's actually, in my mind, has been a fairly decent candidate. He's a moderate. He's Ohioan, kind of classic Midwestern American, and he's just been kind of pushed to the sideline because he's not an extremist.
He's a very well-liked governor, too, so I feel like he would win Ohio in the general election.
I think, I've said this before, I think he would be an excellent vice presidential nominee for the Republicans.
Definitely. So, who do you think is going to win the Republican nomination if we're just jumping ahead?
Unfortunately, at the moment, it looks like it's going to be Trump. I don't really want to see that.
I don't like it because that's pretty much a guaranteed loss.
That is a guaranteed loss to the Republican Party, and I feel like it's just kind of a disgrace to the nation if we are going to say that we nominated this guy to almost become our president.
It really made us look bad, especially, I think, ever since Sarah Palin was picked as a VP, we kind of went downhill a tiny bit.
I think that has constantly, kind of consistently hurt the Republican Party.
Have these crazies.
With an image problem. But also, Hillary Clinton, I talked to many of my more liberal friends who were saying they really just don't like Hillary because they don't find her really appealing that much.
No, she's just a monster almost, or a robot.
Robot, I would say, might be a better thing. I feel like when you're looking at Hillary Clinton, and Donald Trump, you're kind of seeing you're trying to pick between the lesser of two evils in this case.
Right. And
Bernie, unfortunately, I kind of wish the Democrats had a more suitable candidate.
Definitely.
Whereas the Republicans have suitable candidates, but they just aren't being allowed to have their voices be heard.
No.
Hi, we're back. I believe we were discussing the nominees for both parties. We'll try to wrap that up and then move on to the unnamed unscripted section.
So the Democrats, as we discussed before, it's a lot more easy to pick a nominee. Obviously, it's going to be Hillary because Bernie's just, he's kind of crazy. He's kind of hard to elect. And I saw this funny post on Instagram. It showed, presidents aging from the beginning of their presidency to the end.
Oh, I believe I saw that.
And it showed Bush, who looked actually kind of young in 2000, and at the end of his term, he looked like almost a dead man. And then Obama looked in 2008, he looked like, okay. 2016, 16, now we're in, he kind of looked a little old, a little stressed. So, and then it showed Bernie, 8 years later, he's in a coffin. So, I don't know how it's going to
I don't want to, throw ageism in here. People said Reagan was going to die in office. People have said McCain would have died in office.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely going to be Hillary, not only because Bernie's not really electable and the DNC would never allow it, but also just because she is still leading in the polls.
Right.
And I think that will pull through for her, but hopefully the polls that I hope are incorrect are with Trump, because I'm really, really hoping that he's not the nominee.
He'd be the worst choice that we've had in a long time for a nominee for the party.
Unfortunately, I just personally think that, and this is one of the reasons why I prefer to identify as a right-leaning independent, because if the party of Trump is not a party that I entirely, but I do agree. I think you've definitely seen the Republican Party has kind of, in many ways, been rejecting Trump. If any of you have read the National Review lately, they've been. I think it was a New York Times article actually called it a jihad against Trump, which in some respects it is. But I think he definitely at this time has the nomination pretty well clenched up. But I'm just really hoping. We're seeing Cruz right up. Personally, I would like to see someone other than the two of them. Virtually anyone other than the two of them.
Definitely agree with you.
We're seeing what looks like is kind of an inevitability. So I guess let's hope it's Cruz or maybe Rubio, who's also been making a comeback.
Right.
All right. Now we're moving on to the unnamed, unscripted portion of the podcast. This is literally, for all practical purposes, a vlog, so to speak. We've done it a few times, gotten some positive feedback on it, and now we're just, as we're trying for shorter episodes, we're going to condense the two into one. All right, Jack, what interesting has happened in your life in the past week?
So, I think you know this as much as I do, but we attended a recent Yale Model UN conference in New Haven. It was a beautiful setup. There were over 1,600 delegates. It was the biggest thing yet. They divided it into these committees, and some committees were larger than others, general assemblies. I was in Spec Bowl, which was a general assembly. There were probably 100 of us, and it was on the question of Kurdistan, Western Sahara, their independence movement, and you were in a smaller committee. Would you want to talk about that?
Sure. So you have people from all around the world. In my committee, I had people from all around the world. It's one of the, and I would say it's one of the most fun experiences a person can have in high school. And for me, the past weekend, which was when we had, was probably one of my top 10 weekends ever. It was pretty good.
Good to hear.
So I was in a very small committee. I was in the 1953 Presidium of the Soviet Union, which it's pretty complicated, so I'll just say it was extremely fun. Everybody in it was absolutely amazing. If any of you are watching, although I don't know if I told any of you, well actually I did tell one of you, so Beatrice, this is a shout out to you. But everybody else, they were absolutely amazing people. It was a great time. Any particular people who you got to know pretty well in Spec Bowl?
No, Spec Bowl is a little bit larger. It's hard to get your voice heard, but I got my points across. Obviously, there were a couple kids from my school that went with me, and they were fun to be around, definitely, when we were talking about the topics. We got some resolutions passed for solve the conflicts. So yeah, it was a pretty fun experience, pretty fun weekend.
Yeah, that's very nice. All right.
Wait, I think one thing we could talk about is the future of the podcast, some new guest hosts.
Okay, we'll cover that briefly. So we've kept, this entire month, have been promising guest hosts, and we keep falling through on them, and we would like to apologize for that. Ideally, we've been having some serious scheduling errors with Gabe Mesa, who we've been inviting repeatedly to come on. He said he's wanted to come on. It just has continually not gone well. In fact, at Yale, a good friend of ours, Mr. Mike Ribberty, asked to be a host, and we would love to have him on as well. Especially him and Gabe together. That would be
fun, actually.
That would be very fun. And so we are going to continue to try to do this. We have, as we said, potentially some older adults actually coming on for more interview-esque sessions. And we're just looking forward to the future. Please tell us in the comments section what you think of the podcast and what you want to see in the future.
I think people want to see a second Chairman Mao segment.
That is one of the ones we have had the most clamor for, to bring back Chairman Mao. We will look into it. We have, unfortunately, he is a tricky guy to get a hold of.
Definitely.
And an even trickier guy to discuss certain topics with. But apparently, what the fans want, the fans will get, so we'll be looking into that.
Sounds good.
All right, does that cover it, Jack?
Sounds good. I think we should just read our followers and we can.
Oh yes. Sorry. Let's see. Actually, I don't have my phone. Is your phone dead?
We got 1%. I hope we can do this.
Oh, okay. Let's see if we can get through pretty quickly.
I gotta be extremely quick. If it dies out.
Alright, we apologize if it dies out to all of our followers. We will just try to read some off from memory. Okay, just start reading them. Utah_rebel_3. Utah, great state. I will actually be visiting there shortly, which is why we had to film this tonight.
Take my hand, not my life. Shout out to you.
That's a unique name.
Ready for Peak, P-E-A-K-E. Shout out to you.
That's a unique name.
Heath.
Je ne sais quoi.
Heath Ugg 88. Shout out to you.
Cool name.
And countryshouts.stunnin.
All right.
So yeah,
it's a very nice name. And again, I do want to give a shout out to anybody who's in my committee. You guys know who you are, and you guys are awesome.
All right, so let's wrap it up.
All right.
I'm Jack Horvath.
I'm Clark Wahlberger. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.